You just need an exercise that's kind of the next level to make, this exercise look so complicated, it must be doing something for me.
Hey guys! Welcome back to another episode. We're going to talk about simple training versus overcomplicated training. One of the reasons why we prolong starting a program or starting getting back into fitness is the idea of everything that needs to be executed becomes quite overwhelming.
Take this on in 3 areas. 1, simple versus overcomplicated for just the general person doing their own training from the point of a coach programming, and then point of, let's say, a athlete or competitive athlete or professional athlete. So 1 would be the general person just doing their own training, and I think a good amount of what people see in our industry is what we see on social media. The core purpose of it really is a marketing tool for people within the industry. The majority of people in the industry are going to show pretty flashy stuff, and so often that leads to just the general Joe Soap wanting to kind of mimic that and copy that. And downside of that is, like, if your, let's say, even coordination, mechanics, or general competence within training is not there, good chance you're going to hit the wall a lot of the time and kind of not see decent progress. As well as the more complicated it is, sometimes the more difficult it becomes to actually track progress. And again, when there isn't measurable change, it leads to someone being pretty demotivated because you're not seeing an actual, I've made a difference here or there. So keeping training simple and focusing on the fundamentals, because you can apply simple training with many different methodologies. So I think that's where, training doesn't have to be complicated for methodologies to be sound and effective. It's about how you apply those principles. So there's that point. There's the point of the coach. Often there's a lot of pressure on coaches to make programs seem flashy, because simple work, simple done well and over time consistently works better. It's really difficult to, especially for short, trainers looking for short-term income. It's difficult. You get a lot of people that just, we'll be with you for like a month, do it there, and what gets those people in is the flashy stuff. So you program this really complicated program because it makes it seem like you really know what you're doing, whereas it's just about keeping interest. So I think from a training point of view, and as a coach, you have to stand firm in the basic principles. That's first. You'll get over time, the longer a client has been with you, the more complicated you can make their programming in order to stimulate adaptation. But for the most part, when you utilize periodization effectively, you don't need super complicated training. It's just not a necessity. And again, it makes it, even from a coaching point of view, difficult to track. We go from a professional athlete standpoint as well. I think there's a lot of point from professional athletes or competitive athletes that, again, that belief that you just need an exercise that's kind of the next level to make, this exercise look so complicated, it must be doing something for me. Same kind of problem. When we look from a training for a specific competition, or let's say, and especially outside of the training, the strength world. So let's say, for example, a cricketer, a hockey player, a soccer player, things like that. Your strength-based training should be focusing on adaptations that your sport already does not target. For the most part, those playing a sport do a lot of practice. Do not then go into the gym and do movements that are, I get the point of specificity, but again, when you look at specificity, it needs to be an adaptation thing, not just a movement thing. If you're already practicing the movement 3-4 times a week within your actual sport, well, let's strip it back and go, what are the physiological principles we need to improve in order to be better at those movements? And often that doesn't mean just making a movement in the gym that looks similar with some resistance, because we need to kind of look at it and go, an exercise either needs to be targeting strength, targeting speed, or targeting power, or targeting hypertrophy. And the downside of trying to blend too many of these together is that you miss the mark on each.
Yeah.
You know, if you are trying to focus on strength, but somehow you're making an exercise so unstable that it becomes difficult to actually move enough weight to drive strength. Problem. If we're trying to focus on power and we make a movement so heavy that we can't actually move the weight of the bar with speed, problem. So let the exercise be very particular on what adaptation you are wanting, and make sure the exercise targets that adaptation. Don't try and mold everything into one. If you're working at a good enough intensity, you don't require a massive amount of, I think that's also where you get programs that have so much volume. It's because, well, the exercise is kind of doing half the job it needs to. So you're going the route of excessive volume in order to compensate for the fact that, well, you could reduce the volume and just make sure that the sets you're doing are incredibly difficult and specific to the adaptation that you want, and then use periodization in the year to determine what time of the year are you going to focus on a particular adaptation. I think a lot of the time, overcomplicated programming comes from trying to achieve too many goals within one, and what happens 9 times out of 10 is you make some marginal improvement across the board, but nothing really noteworthy. Whereas if you use good periodization in the year, you can target a specific adaptation at the time in your season that it is required, and over the long run, throughout the whole year, you've actually made much better improvement.
If you see a very inexperienced personal trainer with their client and they are making their clients do squats into an upright row, number one, what you can upright row is definitely going to be way lighter than what you need for squats. The purpose is to build muscle, to build strength. You're not going to achieve that with that, because you're basically just moving your body for the sake of moving your body. That's just calorie burning. So it looks cool, doesn't serve a great purpose, and that's what you should be looking for if you're working with a coach and they're making you do a lunge into a bicep curl and say this is going to work your bum while you turn your biceps. Actually, your biceps are going to be working way harder than what your legs are. Again, understanding the purpose of the movement and what you're trying to achieve is very important. When you determine what the goal is, you might have 3 to 4 goals. It does not mean you need to achieve all 3 to 4 at once. You can start for 4 weeks where you're working on just one goal. Exercise has no time frame. The training has no time frame. Yes, there are, like for athletes, there are reasons why we need to do what we need to do. But if you're just training to become better, healthier, fitter, it doesn't matter how long you take. And it doesn't matter how many goals you set. The time period doesn't matter. So focus on one goal at a time, make it simple, and you'll see you'll get way better results in a shorter period of time.
Oh, definitely. The true value of a coach isn't about how exciting your programming can be. It's about how effective it can be. And simple training used at the right time and in the right way is incredibly effective, and good coaches will make themselves known as because they can provide something really simple, but they can explain the methodology behind it, to why it's like that, and to go, well, but we don't actually need this fancy stuff. And I get that you've seen this on Instagram and you've seen this here, but this is the limitation of doing it like that. This is the reason why we do it like this, and go for there. The true knowledge of a trainer is the movements required for most adaptations are really basic. The knowledge and the use of the trainer comes in when and where to apply it, how to apply it, and guiding someone through that process. That is where if I look at strength and conditioning coaches, physios, and athletes that I've learned from and admired over the years, all of them do basic training. Nothing about what they're doing is overly complicated or extra flashy. It is the basic stuff, and they've been doing it for 20 plus years. And it's just, again, knowing when and where to do it.
Don't try and overcomplicate your training. It's the same with your nutrition. Don't try and overcomplicate your nutrition. Don't try and overcomplicate the plan that you want to follow. And if a coach comes to you, and here's another example of what to look out for. If you get a coach and every week they are changing the program, that's also a sign of not sticking to the basics and keeping it simple.
Yeah.
That's a coach that's getting bored of being a coach. And that's because they don't have the knowledge or the capacity to utilize the knowledge they have for each individual client.
Definitely.
All right, guys.
Cheers.